Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Jamie Hughes Show. My name as always is Jamie Hughes and today I'm going to be giving you my review of Breathe. Now if you want to keep up to date with all my latest movie news and reviews, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. And as always with my videos, this review may include spoilers, so you have now been warned. So Breathe is an absolute joy to watch, and there are a lot of films out there like this, but what I think sets this one apart from the rest is how his illness and his disease is dealt with. I'll be honest, I was expecting this film to be, not to be disrespectful, but I felt this film might have been like a bit of a downer, like they were really, you know, it was really going to play on his polio and how he was kind of helpless within a sense, but I'm really glad to say it didn't. It went a completely different direction. It had a completely different tone to what I thought it was going to have. It's a very upbeat and bright film, and it's a very life-affirming film, and that's what I loved about this movie, is how this guy and this movie is just full of energy and life, and he doesn't let this disease get him down. I think that's what makes this film kind of a little bit special, is how out there this guy is, that he's willing to try anything to live, even to die, if that makes any sort of sense. Like, he'll risk his life for himself and others to give himself a better quality of life. And I think it was just really inspirational, and it was a really great story and just a really great tone to the film that just made it feel really sweet. And I loved it, and I really loved how they switched the tone in the last kind of 10-15 minutes of this movie, so it did have that seriousness and that sadness to it, but for the most part it's a very uplifting film, and it's a very uplifting story, and it was just really kind of nice and refreshing to see. And I think why that works so much is that this is a very family orientated film. It's focused around him and his wife and his son Jonathan, who actually produced this movie. So I think that really is a huge plus for this film, because it feels very authentic, and it feels right, and it feels like him and his Jonathan and his mother had the right input into this movie to really drive home how inspirational his father was, and it was just a real joy to see. Really great performances in this movie, especially from Andrew Garfield, who played Robin, the main character. I think that was a very tough role to undertake, and I think he fit the role perfectly. It was a really compelling and interesting performance, and I just loved his use of facial expressions. Obviously, like, he's confined to a wheelchair and he can't kind of act from the neck down as well as move, and I think he portrayed that, and he captured that really well with his little mannerisms, and it was just really great to see. As with Claire Foy, who played Diana, I think she was really brilliant as the I don't want to say the long-suffering wife, because that puts the wrong spin on it, but you know, she gives up her life for Robin, and I think that was captured and portrayed perfectly, and I thought the two together had a real great chemistry, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of these two got nominated, at least for a BAFTA, if not maybe more, going forward as we roll around to award season. Now, I do have a few things negative to say about this movie. They are really small things, but one of those things was that it felt like this film didn't really move with the times, and the characters felt stayed very the same, and the style of clothing and just the kind of world around them just felt like it was stuck in the 1950s, because this movie starts in the 50s and ends in the 1980s, but it did feel like Robin and Diana and Hugh Bonneville's character, they were all kind of still talking like they were in the 50s, and still felt like they were dressed in the 50s, and even like the style of the house still felt very 1950s, and I just would have liked to have seen just a little bit more progression with the style of this movie, as I said, because it just felt like it was stuck in the 50s, even though we had progressed through nearly 4 decades with this story. So again, it's just a really small thing. It was just something that stuck with me throughout this movie. And then the other thing isn't really a negative, it's more of a positive, because I really wanted to see more of this movie. It's got about, I think it's about a 2-hour runtime, but I did feel like the beginning of this movie was quite rushed with the relationship of Robin and Diana. I know that progressed throughout the movie, and that was kind of the whole point. But I think you definitely could have added another 10-15 minutes onto the beginning of this film and really built up that relationship between the two main characters. Just felt it would have just added a little bit more beef to those characters and to the story. But again, I wouldn't take that as a negative, because the fact that I wanted to see more of this film, I think, is a huge positive. And as I said, really enjoyed this movie. It definitely sets itself apart from movies that are of a similar style. Really great British movie. Can definitely see this doing well at the BAFTAs. I say, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Andrew Garfield or Claire Foy got an Oscar nod for this movie, which is, you know, quite a big thing, I suppose. But really enjoyed this one. So if you guys have seen Breathe, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments below. And as always, if you did enjoy this video, then why not subscribe and keep up to date with all the latest movie news and reviews. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Ta-ra.